The face of Missouri football is no longer Drew Lock. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Missouri game as the Tigers hit the field for the final time during their spring sessions on Saturday. We got Brendan Anthony on the line from the Mazad cast. Brendan, we appreciate you jumping on board and helping us out.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Before we get started, where can people find you and the podcast?
So we can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all the normal places where podcasts are available. Just look us up. And we're also pretty active on social media at Mazadcast on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, all those places too.
There we go. So in regards to the game yesterday, the storylines are typically the quarterback position, unless you've got a starter who's entrenched coming back. Drew Lock preparing himself for the NFL draft. Kelly Bryant, a successful run at Clemson, maybe not successful in light of the quarterbacks that preceded and succeeded him. But Kelly Bryant now comes to Missouri, and I got to think that the offense is going to look much different from the guy who slings it around the field for close to 50 touchdowns and 4,000 yards to a guy who's more of a running threat.
Yeah, that's right. Drew Lock had been at the helm for nearly a total of 4 years. He began starting midway through his freshman year and has been here ever since, and has been the bread and butter of the Tigers for the last 4 years and for the entirety of the Barry Odom era here in Columbia. And so to look at Kelly Bryant, a quarterback who's as much a threat with his legs as he is his arm, is a big change for us, and something we haven't seen since since like the Brad Smith days of Mizzou football. And people are kind of excited about a change of pace, even though we've grown to rely on that golden arm of Drew Lock's.
And since Derek Dooley's running this offense, he's obviously had the challenge of trying to tailor it differently than what he was accustomed to doing when he took the job and had the talents of Drew Lock.
Yeah. So, Derek Dooley had come in here, and basically when Drew Lock was at the helm, his thing was he didn't change too much up, because obviously, as you mentioned, he was throwing 50 plus touchdowns a year, and it didn't need to. The ball was moving just fine before he got here. But Kelly Bryant brought a different challenge to him, and one of the things that he and Barry Odom had both mentioned about the offense coming in and Kelly Bryant leading it was that the receivers essentially would have to be more aware, because when the pocket broke down and Kelly Bryant started to improvise, which is something he's known to do, that they had to be trained to improvise with him. And under the Drew Lock regime, it was a lot of knowing your routes and sticking to those routes, because they were a lot of times long, slow developing plays for long passes. Not going to be the case as much this year, and we finally got a chance to see that. And that's what Mizzou fans, the ones who did come out to watch yesterday, that's what they were looking to see.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game that we love for the hardcore college football fan. We're talking Missouri as the Tigers and Barry Odom culminated spring practices with the annual spring game, where, much like Auburn, which we just posted a few minutes ago, pinned the starters against the poor reserves, and the Auburn disparity was 28-10, and the starters for Missouri beat the reserves 21-3. We got Brendan Anthony on the line from the Mazad cast. So check him out and the rest of the crew there on Missouri football coverage. Barrett Bannister, Jonathan Nance are a couple guys that, at least according to the stat sheet, flashed as wide receivers. 8 catches, 73 yards for Bannister, 3 for 49 for Nance. Your thoughts about the supporting cast around Kelly Bryant, and not just in this particular spring game, but what you've been able to gather throughout the spring and how they're looking in practice?
Well, yeah, and it's good to see Bannister get a lot of receptions and yards. But I think what was most interesting is what Tiger fans did not see Saturday, which is 2 of the big returning stars, Jonathan Johnson at receiver and tight end Albert Okawebanon, who were sitting out. Albert O is nursing a injury, as was Jonathan Johnson. And so they didn't play. And I think especially the tight end, Albert O, A lot of Tiger fans want to see him heavily involved in an offense that looks tailor-made for Kelly Bryant to go to him a lot for short mid-length passes. So we didn't see what that's going to look like, even though that's what we got a lot of hope for coming in. And then the running game will be a little different because Demaria Crockett declared for the draft this year, so he won't be returning. And so Larry Roundtree III will be the star back, followed by a guy named Tyler Beatty, who really kind of came out of nowhere last year as a true freshman and was really impressive, a different type of back than both Crockett and Roundtree have been, which are both big bruising backs. Beatty is sort of a finesse runner and has just that real spark of speed whenever he gets the ball, and he has a big play potential. So I think we feel confident at running back. We feel confident at the quarterback position. We have new cast of characters at receiver. And then, of course, we kind of, the offensive line has been helping Drew Lock the last 2 years. So we're hoping for some consistency again there. And then the defense has been the question mark for Missouri the last couple of years. So we got our first look at that. They didn't play too poorly either. It's kind of tough in these games because they can't touch the quarterback. Kelly Bryant is a running quarterback who makes plays kind of in the Johnny Manziel style. And so, they record a sack, even though Kelly Bryant may have slipped that sack in real life, so it's hard to say how that defense played. You mentioned it was 21-3. The thing that makes me curious is, and this has always been an issue for Missouri, sometimes they have as good a talent as anybody else in the conference, but not always as deep. And it was the backup squad on both sides of the ball were far inferior to the starters. And so, health will be a key for Missouri this year because they just aren't that deep at many positions.
Brendan Anthony joining us to talk Missouri football. You can join him and the rest of the staff there at Mazodcast. Just look him up on Twitter. And as Brendan mentioned off the top, any of the major audio platforms to get your Missouri sports fix. Football, of course, what we talk here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Brendan, we appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully we can have you back sometime during the summer. Look at position battles, the schedule, as we get everybody set for 2019.
Yeah, and I think one thing you didn't mention, and it usually isn't the case in the spring games, but for Missouri it was this year, is we have a brand new $95 million South End Zone edition. Our fans got our first look at that, which is nearing its stages of completion. I mean, it's not completely there yet. They don't have the bleachers of the chairs in place. The scoreboard's going up. But we can get a sense of what that closed-in stadium looks like, and it's going to be exciting if we put butts in the seats this year.
Well, Brendan, as you well know, especially in the SEC, you've got to keep up. So that's part of the deal. Stadium renovations, facilities, practice facilities, and so forth.
Yeah, it'll look a lot different for opposing teams for sure this season.